It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. Ugh, low energy. I'm super tired today. But I did read through a lot of the comments on the Toxic Fandom video. There was some really, really good comments. There were hundreds of them. So I tried to sort of group into buckets or find comments that were sort of representative of a point of view, but there was absolutely no way to get all of them in. There were just too many good ones. I spent about an hour just reading and reading and reading and reading and going, okay, interesting viewpoint. And I'm going to be gentle in comments because this is an example of if you don't want toxicity, don't bring it. Right? I asked people for their points of view. So I'm now not going to attack people for their points of view or, ridicule someone's point of view. That would defeat the purpose of the exercise and discourage people from voicing their point of view. And I guess that's one. See, there's two places I can go with this right now. And if you like this sort of dialogue with an audience on YouTube, if you want to support this kind of thing, because Feedback Friday videos, they're hard to name. So sometimes they do great, sometimes they don't. But if you want to support this, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Two places I can go. One, I guess I wasn't super clear, as clear as I should be, about what constitutes toxic fandom. Also, the sort of theme that came up over and over and over and over again of either there's no respect for the source material with the new stuff, there's no respect, the fan base is treated like a liability / you must like this new version or else you are something bad. So let's start with the refining the definition of toxic fandom. So hopefully some people will feel less attacked. Everybody that gets upset about something in fandom, I do not consider a toxic fan. Okay? It's one thing about getting upset about a change. It's one thing about getting, I didn't like this. I wasn't crazy about this. It's another thing to attack someone personally. If you cross the line into, you think this, therefore you are a bad person, that to me is just toxic. And I think there are just a lot of toxic personalities out there. But the reasons for the toxic personality, there's some really interesting insights in here. But like I said, the thing that came up again and again and again, and this makes a lot of sense to me. The idea that the minute I read the comment, the thing they don't like about, newer fans is you must like the changes or you're racist or sexist and so on. It's like, yeah, okay, I can understand why someone would get upset because that's not the issue. They just like the newer one better and don't like to be sort of sidelined and treated like a liability. That has nothing to do with gender. That has nothing to do with race. Also, I will give you guys, there is the reality that when sometimes in development, when people don't have an actual good idea for something, they're like, well, let's throw in a black person or let's throw in a woman or something like that. If I had a nickel for every time I did a consult on something and it was this friend character, this girlfriend character, why are they in the story? Oh, well, she's the girlfriend. Yeah, but what does she do in the story? Well, she's the girlfriend. You need to have more than that. That's not a well-rounded character. And they get mad at me. And that's why I say if I had a nickel, because they usually don't pay me because they're mad. But, it is true that I'm going to commit heresy and say the one that is like this for me. I really like the show Star Trek Discovery. I can't stand the Michael character. Does this make me racist and sexist? No, it has nothing to do with that. I think the actress herself, she's gorgeous. That shouldn't matter in Star Trek, though. But she does the best she can with a part that is all over the place. The problem with Michael in Star Trek Discovery is that between season 1 and season 2, she became a completely different character. She became a Spock proxy in season 1 with a sister nobody knew about who was also human. Sorry, spoilers. Who, okay, Spock had a brother, but never referenced a sister. Certainly never referenced a human sister. What the hell, complete retcon. That was weird enough, but I am so used to them retconning Spock because Spock fanboys tend to end up in charge of the Star Trek franchise. I want a good McCoy fanboy or fan person to get in charge of the Star Wars franchise. I think McCoy fans have of the original sort of triangle, like the triumvirate of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. I think McCoy fans have the best handle on the whole thing because McCoy fans have to admit that, yeah, McCoy was cool, but McCoy was racist. Right? And that was sort of the point of the character at the time. It's like flawed. Kirk was a terrible womanizer, the fact that they were flawed characters who sort of, played into each other's strengths worked. And to me, that's sort of the backbone of Trek. And that's gotten eroded. And this is when I become a cranky Star Trek fan, but I'm not toxic because after the first new Star Trek movie, the one with the shadow cast, as I call it, I saw that one. I will never see another Star Trek movie because, okay, the Next Generation ones weren't great, but I don't like what they're doing with it. So stop watching it, right? More on that in a bit. But Discovery I do enjoy as a show. But the Michael character drives me crazy because they want to have a black person leading a Star Trek, a black woman, I guess, because I've already had a black person leading a Star Trek series, Cisco on Deep Space Nine. But, they have it in their head that Michael is the main character somehow. I think that's a mistake. Star Trek should be an ensemble. But they really want to force this character down our throats. Unfortunately, they don't know who the character is. Now, somebody would say that you're just saying this because you're a racist. And it's like, no, the issues I have with this character have nothing to do with, oh, you put a black woman in it. No, it's that the character totally changed from this person who was raised on Vulcan and therefore acts kind of Vulcan, although she never really did. She always sort of had anger issues. In the first season. And then all that somehow went out the window at some point, and now she's a straight up, like, gun-toting, rule-breaking, like, Kirk type. The character's changed. And instead of sort of letting the character be part of an ensemble, I don't know if it's contracts or whatever, but every time that character is on screen, it is this, like, gravitational pull that makes everything else less good. Now, no matter what I say here, right, somebody's going to, you just don't like her because you're racist, which is not true. But there's nothing I can do about it. But this is my insight from the comments, okay? This is something that we can actually be aware of. Does it feel good to be accused of bigotry? Especially when you sit with it and determine, no, it's not true. No, it feels awful. Okay, trust me. I've been accused of every type of bigotry under the sun, including misogyny. Some women can hate other women. It is true, but if you watch any of my content, but it's just an easy thing that people can fling at people. And this ties into the you have to like this or else, also known as the Ghostbusters argument. And now, in the rear view, everybody's willing to sort of admit the new Ghostbusters movie. You get the, I liked it to the Ghostbusters movie instead of people defending it as a legitimately good work of cinema. And here's the thing about Ghostbusters. The original Ghostbusters movie from back in the 80s was a tight script. It was a good movie. Like, concept aside, it was well written. The dialogue was good. The characters were defined and it was about something. It was not a let's cash in on a brand casting it girls that we have under some sort of development contract, which is what the second one felt like. Not that I don't like all of the actresses, quite frankly. I like all of them as people. The movie itself was just not good. But did I spend months or years fighting about that on the internet? No. And this is the thing. There were a lot of comments of people are saying that I'm a bad person. I'm not going to take that lying down. And this is when you get into a bad actor trap that you have to be aware of. That the minute a person goes, if you don't like this movie, you're a bad person, or, you know, you're this because of an identity point, this is not a fight you can win. There's no way to convince that person because they don't want to be convinced. You're a tool for their own self-aggrandizement. There's no way you convince them that they're wrong. And so all of your struggling and all of your flailing is just something they use as pageantry to show off to their friends. Look at this horrible person who's having a complete meltdown in front of them. This proves their point, right? When you get aggressive with that sort of people, it plays into their game. Now, I totally get the fact that a pre-existing fandom feeling like a liability or being treated like a liability hurts. I get it. I'm an old school Mortal Kombat fan. Okay. I get it. That is not right. And this is where I think we have to sort of check things a little bit and check the logic. One commenter, I don't think I've ever seen him comment before, but I could be wrong. Wesley Boyett, I'm giving him credit because he brought up I may butcher this name, the Thucydides trap. The what? No, that's not a Thanos snap. The Thucydides trap is actually not an ancient Greek principle. It was created by an American political scientist. The name is based on the military general Thucydides, who said that the Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta was because Sparta was afraid of the growth of Athenian power, and this is the theory. I thought this was interesting, an interesting theory that it's the fear of like a rising faction that makes some fans toxic. And I thought that was a really good insight because, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw what happened when Mortal Kombat pissed me off. I stopped buying Mortal Kombat games. I didn't cling desperately to Mortal Kombat fandom and the Mortal Kombat games because there's a bazillion other things out to play, right? Not necessarily fighting games, but there are plenty of other games with good combat that I can go play that aren't going screw you existing fan base in interviews, right? The minute a game franchise does that to me, I'm like, nope, bye. Didn't play the most recent Lara Croft game either. Got burned by 2. No more. If I get it for free somehow, I might play it, but I don't know. If they don't want me, I don't want them. There's plenty of games out there, right? But this is the thing. I'm not threatened by this. Things come, things go. I'm well used to being treated like the dog shit on the bottom of someone's shoe. I've been a woman in video games from the bad old days where it sucked way worse than it did now. I've talked about it before. I won't do it here. I'm used to it. Is that a good thing? No. What it does do is that people try to use my videos as proof that I'm some, anti-feminist in disguise, so on and so forth, secretly alt-right, all that stuff. But they have to twist my words to do it. When you go into something with the, I'm not going to just take that, I'm not going to take this lying down mentality, you're setting yourself up to get stomped, right? You got to be tactical about this stuff if you want a better result. And, take Star Wars, for instance. Star Wars has this cycle of neglecting the old fan base, realizing they screwed up, and going back and making something that the original fan base loves. I got into this cycle a bit on Twitch as well, but think about it. Original trilogy. Sweet, right? Though every Star Wars movie that first came out, when it first came out, it was seen as crap. They're retroactive classics. Every single Star Wars movie that has ever been released has ruined Star Wars in a way. We have to keep this in perspective. The critics have never loved Star Wars movies. But there was an earnestness in the first three that we only get glimpses of in everything since. Then you get the 1990s Star Wars movies, which are hilariously bad in my mind. I hated the second one. What was it? Attack of the Clones? It is so bad now. I watch it every so often when it's on TV for giggles because the dialogue is dreadful. It's the worst of episodes. Episode 2, still the worst Star Wars movie in my mind. That's gonna release a big fight, right? More on that in a bit. But then Dave Filoni got a hold of the franchise and made Clone Wars. And Clone Wars had more of that rapid pace space opera feel, as about shooty stuff, not trade deals, right? Reclaimed it. Time goes by, people are really excited. There's this love for the franchise, mainly because of the cartoons. Then we get these 7, 8, 9. And 7, I think, has the most goodwill because it had those original cast members back. Everything else aside, people were happy to see Han, Luke, and Leia back on screen. And then the same problems happened. Again, that idea of getting so obsessed with attracting a new audience that you alienate the old one. And then Dave Filoni comes back and is part of The Mandalorian, and all old fans like me are happy again. It's a vicious cycle. It's a marketing mistake. Politicians know not to alienate their base. I don't know why entertainment companies do. Partially it has to do with advertising, but it is a mistake. But again, that takes me in two prongs. One, there was one comment, and I was like, whoo, I'm going to have to approach this really carefully. Guy was like, you and I are never going to agree on Star Wars. I'm sorry. When you start talking about Star Wars, you step onto sacred ground. And it's like, oh, religious terminology. Interesting. Because I said, there's that. I don't think it explains it all. But in one case, as a friend of mine who I actually know in real life who watches video, I always get uncomfortable when people in real life watch videos, was, okay, they don't hate me. My friend's a very cool guy, but he's Catholic. And he argued passionately about it is like a religion now. He says, because of the hero worship in it. And I'm like, Well, that's interesting. Hero worship, treating these like Christ-like figures, these perfected beings. All right. But he also talked about the fact that a lot of religions are about control of resources, control of territory. You are on holy ground. You must obey the rules. Well, who gets to set the rules? Why is one Star Wars fan considered a priest of Star Wars, for lack of a better term, and another isn't? Considering I'm probably older than the guy who said it and, saw at least one of the original trilogy movies in theaters. Why is somebody younger than me who has been in the franchise less time, gatekeeping Star Wars to me? I was around when Boba Fett was new. Like, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, it's that you're on sacred ground. And that's when the skeptic in me kicks in, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Granted, I don't even treat my own religion as sacrosanct. One person said, and this, it was said in jest, but I took it as a great compliment. They said it's kind of a good thing you don't have kids, because those kids would drive their teachers crazy, critically questioning everything because you drill critical thinking into them. And I'm like, that's a lovely compliment. Possibly true. I distrust sacred cows. I am not going to treat anything like... I can respect religiosity. I reject heresy. And so when someone comes at me with that argument that there are some things, it's sacred ground. No, it's not, man. No, it's not. It's a movie. And even if it was sacred ground, sacred to whom? And are you going to treat all sacred grounds as sacred? And why are you setting it up like you're the priest and I'm the heretic? I'm sorry, you're not George Lucas. You don't own Star Wars. And again, I said I was going to be gentle. Just deconstructing the issues. But this kind of makes sense when people start treating this with religious fervor, religious style fervor. Things can go sideways really quickly because it's a loss of perspective. And I admit that I am, and this is just my bias, I'm less forgiving of that position than someone going, I don't want to be treated like a liability. I don't want to take that lying down. In that case, there's a smart way to fight and a loud way to fight. But I totally understand the instinct, right? The religious stuff makes me uncomfortable. That it makes me uncomfortable. Because people do go to war over religion. People, and that is not the same as, religion inherently being some sort of evil thing, but people misuse it. And the whole point of any, pop culture phenomenon is it's supposed to reduce stress. But this breaking down of identity, and we go back to identity, the people talked very passionately about, in the comments as well, how important these franchises were to them. The memories they have. I remember one of the most painful things that ever happened to me on the internet is some dipshit. He was a pro Gamergator, but he was like the really, really, really extreme, like more moderate Gamergate threw him out extreme. But took a picture I took of my mother when we went to see episode 7, episode 8, one of those of Star Wars. But I posted on Twitter. I was so happy to see Star Wars about my mother, and took the picture and talked about how old and ugly my mother looked. It's not true. They were just being cruel. But that is one of the most uniquely cruel, painful things anybody has done to me on the internet ever. This is a person who I would not trust being in a room with, because they went after my mother. There are some lines you just don't cross. So I totally understand the nostalgia and that irrational let's go thing, right? I don't think you can completely divorce yourselves from that. That is a human thing. And this is where we go back to sort of the definition of toxicity. There seems to be this assumption that the pre-existing fan base is the only toxic element of a fandom. Yet these newer fans who come in and say, you gotta like the new edition or else you're bigoted, that is just as toxic, if not more so, because it's the same, it's the same reaction I had to the guy younger than me gatekeeping Star Wars. It's like, excuse me, who are you? You know what I mean? These are all human reactions. Now, the question is what you do about them, right? And I think the difference between a passionate fan and a toxic fan is how you behave. And I understand that there is a level of awkwardness that some people are emulating behaviors they've seen with guys talking about sports and other things like that. And it's awkwardly executed, so it doesn't translate. I'm not really, that happens. There's no evil intent there. But the people who act like they own this stuff, this is what I want to touch on here. This idea that old fans are supporting, problematic material, or new fans are ruining the material. Neither fan group has a direct say about what goes in a movie. Like, if you don't like the new movies, blame the people who made the movies. A lot of people blame Rian Johnson. This is true. But if you think the old movies had issues with them, recognize that people probably see the same things you do, but we don't get to pick perfect media. You know what I mean? Like, we take what we're given and we go, really like these scenes, didn't like that, like I did with Justice League. Really, really like that hour. This other stuff, not so much. I have no control over it. And, just because I say overall it was the damn sight better than Whedon's cut doesn't mean I think it's flawless, and doesn't mean I didn't still have some issues with some stuff. But a lot of us prefer to focus on what we like about something than what we don't like about something, because our identity isn't tied up in what we hate. And I do think that this problem of toxic fandom is going to persist as long as the IP holders continue to encourage various factions of ever-growing fan bases to fight with each other. Instead of going, look, you don't like the movie, get mad at me. Don't get mad at an actress who didn't cast herself. She didn't write the character. Same thing I said about Star Trek Discovery. Like, the actress is fine. She didn't write the character. It's the concept and writing of the character I have issues with. Put the criticism where it belongs, right? Don't start attacking people who, Star Wars fans didn't make Chewie eat that porg. Somebody said I neglected to mention the porgs. There, I mentioned the porg. I love the porgs. They're creepy and they're cute. Peak Star Wars alien. Chewie eating the porg? No, not cool. Not cool here. Am I going to say I hated the whole movie because that one scene? No. Like, Luke drinking the milk thing was pretty weird too. I don't blame people who thought that scene was kind of funny for the fact that it's in there. I blame whatever sick, twisted person approved that, right? It's important to keep these things in place. The person you're fighting with on the internet has no real control over what got made at all. No, really. And that's important to keep in mind, that everybody that's fighting with each other is essentially a bystander, Because at the end of the day, you know, a director can either care about fan service or try to defy expectations. And that isn't anybody's responsibility. Nobody's to blame for that but the team that actually made it, right? So let's stay in that lane, please, and see how it goes. And I'll leave it there because that's my half hour. But yeah, it was really insightful. I feel like I learned something from this journey, which is good. It's nice to be able to kind of sit back and listen to people's perspectives and have people fill in blanks that aren't in my experience. Cool. Okay, if you like this stuff, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.